Are you a relatively new DM struggling to write your first campaign? Well, then you're in the right place. I'm JW, the DM, and today that's what we're going to talk about. Why writing an entire campaign is a bad idea, even for experienced DMs, and then to give you a teaser on what you should do instead. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've seen new DMs and GMs post on the various Discord channels that they're planning a campaign, and almost every time they're trying to create and write the entire campaign up front. Don't do that. There are several reasons why you don't, especially as a new DM GM. Now, I'm not saying don't homebrew your first campaign, although I generally think you should run a few one-shots first to get the hang of the mechanics. But I'm just saying don't create the whole thing up front. The first reason is that it takes a lot of time to create the details of an entire campaign. So unless you're a paid game designer, you probably don't have the time for it. Now, many new DMs and GMs put off running their first session until they finish writing their full campaign, and they often never get to play the game because they never finish writing the campaign. That's obviously a huge problem. And anyway, creating a campaign is not the same as writing a novel, but we'll get to that. The next problem is that because it's a lot of work, you may suffer DM burnout before you even DM the game. And believe me, a lot of that work will be wasted because you'll have to throw it all out based on what the PCs actually do versus what you thought they would do. Now, professional designers know most of the time what they're doing, and they still get it wrong sometimes. I'm guessing that most new DMs and GMs are not professional designers. Not yet, anyway. As implied above about what you think the characters will do and you wanting to use what you've created means you're likely to railroad your players too much rather than giving your players agency to do what they will, instead of making them do what you want them to do. See, railroading is when you essentially force outcomes to happen and not letting your players make meaningful choices or to go off the script. When you force the characters to go through each chapter and scene, or whatever you want to call them, in order and doing everything the way you want it done so that your story is the one being told, you have taken away player agency and are railroading them. In this case, you should just write a novel instead, because it removes two features from tabletop RPGs that make them distinct from computer games and fun for your players: getting to attempt literally any action they can imagine and co-creating the game. It's a collaborative game. The GM might provide the basic framework, the scaffolding, and provide hints and clues about what they hope the players do, but it's working together with your players to come up with the actual story, discovered in the moment. That's the fun of playing together. I mean, the joy of the surprise moments that no one is ready for. It's more engaging and enjoyable for most players at most tables. And by the way, a little bit of railroading is generally a good thing. I'll cover that later, and I have covered it in other videos, but I suggest what's called Pool-Table DMing. And I recommend that you watch this video on that topic, linked here and in the description below. The short version, the world and the story can have boundaries, like the bumpers on a pool table, and that keeps things moving in more or less the right direction. Balls are going to eventually get into pockets, and you get to the 8-ball in the conclusion. Now, the balls can be shot into different pockets at different times, though, in different orders, which meaningfully changes what's happening on the table. The positions on the table basically mean like what's going on in the game. Now, the positions of the balls and such can be infinite, but eventually it is time to sink that 8-ball, the conclusion of the story, finally defeating the BBEG and such. And that the 8-ball must be taken care of eventually is a case of minor railroading. That's good. Now, the players in my main campaign prefer a narrower table to play on with much closer bumpers because they like having fewer choices to choose from to advance the story. They are uncomfortable with a complete sandbox, which is the term for the style of play that is the exact opposite of a full railroad. Most games happen somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. The characters going off script means a lot of whatever you've come up with will have to be thrown away in order to keep the story going. And if you've written a tight journey across a large chunk of campaign, you'll have to revise the entire story from the point of divergence, and then keep having to do that every time the party diverges. You want to avoid that by leaving a lot of that work up to session prep, which we'll get to in the next video. Remember, some of the fun comes from discovering what's going to happen and what's becoming canonical lore right as it's happening at the table or in the prep for the next session. Now, rather than continue to say what you shouldn't do and why, it's time to give you my advice on what to do in the next video. But here's the teaser. If you were trying to write out a whole campaign, that means you were trying to create a cohesive story with a plot. Let's start with that. Create the plot, but make it loose and vague and be ready to throw out giant parts of it, but without too much effort. And how do we do that? We create a vague outline with a little detail at the end, our 8-ball, so to speak, and the majority of the detail at the very, very, very beginning. You do not want to know much about what happens between the first session or two of play and the last few sessions. And we're going to break down this outline and the note-taking, beginning with what's at the end of the outline next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support my making of this content. Tell us your thoughts in the comments below, and may all your games be full of glory. Till next time.